Okay, so looking at our sample output, we've just written the code to cover this part, the data entry in the user-driven loop. So now we're at the point where the arrays are populated and we want to print out the report for the user, line it up nicely, and also work on finding the highest calorie food as well as totaling up the calories for the day. So what I'll do is maybe just start with the for loop, and then we'll work on the code inside of it little by little. Okay, so this is for the chart header, the report header, and I just hard-coded the spaces here, but we are going to use set W to get this output lined up nicely here, and we'll left align the string data, which is typical, and then we will right align the numeric data, which is also typical. Okay, so in any case, this is my for loop. We're going to accomplish a lot inside of this loop. And notice how, okay, I have my loop counter I, and we're going to keep looping while I is less than the current food index. I had mentioned that current food index is not only is it keeping track of where we are in the arrays, but it also knows how many items the user has entered. So that's perfect. One mistake I would see students make on a test like this or an exercise like this, they would use max food instead of the current index. And I mean, it's not the end of the world. It'll still work, but what if the user only enters 5 foods or 2 or 3 foods? Max food has 20, so you've got this loop going 20 times. And most of the elements are going to be blank. So you might get like just a huge amount of blank lines if you're lucky, or it might do a runtime error. So anyway, let me get back to normal here. Okay. And all right, so let's do the output on the food and the calories. So this is just one big C out. I'll drop to 2 lines just so you can see, but I've got a set W of 40 characters, which should be good for most of the foods here. So that's a field width of 40 characters there. And then a smaller width on the calories. Let's see what I have there, if anything. Oh yeah, only 6 on the calories. Notice I'm using the left alignment on the foods and then the right alignment on the calories, as I had mentioned. Okay, so also inside of this loop, we want to get the highest calorie food. Okay, and this is just a quick little algorithm. We've done this kind of thing before. And let me remind you that at the top, we created this variable, the index of the highest calorie food. That's going to come into play here. So in this loop, I'm going to say if, I'm looking at the calories array. That's the one I care about. I don't care about the food names. I care about the calories here. If the current calories I'm looking at are greater than the highest calorie. You know what? Let me backtrack here. When I set this to 0, I have to start somewhere. I'm saying the first food that the user enters is going to be the highest calories. It may not be, but I've got to start somewhere. So that 0 element, that first element, becomes the one to beat, okay? So here when I'm saying, we're going to loop through the food, so I'm going to look at all of them by the time this loop is done. And I'm saying if the one I'm currently looking at is greater or higher in calories than the one to beat, okay, then the index of the highest calorie food becomes the loop counter of that current element, okay? It gets the value of that current element. So this way, if I come across one that is higher than the front runner at the moment, then that one's index becomes the highest index. So it's just a very quick little algorithm to isolate the index of the highest food. And then, after I've isolated that index, when the loop is done, I'm home free. That's a straight shot into that array. I can get the food name with that index. I can get the calorie count with that index. Of the highest calories. So this is a really convenient way of zoning in on that high calorie food. also in this loop, one more kind of housekeeping thing, I want to get the running tally or running total of the calories, okay? And we did have a total calories variable up at the top, okay? Started at 0. It's very important that you initialize that to 0. And we're saying inside the loop here, total calories equals whatever's already in there plus the count of the calories work of the current thing we're looking at. This is shorthand code here for this, right? Equals whatever's already in there, okay, plus what I'm looking at the moment, okay? This is the long way of doing it. This is the more common C++ way of doing it with the arithmetic assignment operator. So that allows us to get that running total, okay, because you keep adding to what was in there previously, as opposed to overwriting what is in that variable. You're like adding to it. Okay, so then we're home free, honestly. We've got the index of the highest food. We have the total calories. The only thing left is to display the highest calorie food and the total calories. So I'll do that one at a time here. So now this is the end of the loop. We're done. We're done with loops at this point. Now this is just the very ending stuff here, displaying the highest calorie food. As I said, once we've isolated that index, it's just a straight shot into the name of the food and the calorie, the high calorie food. Okay, that'll tell us exactly what the high calorie was, the calorie count and the name of the food that has that high calorie count. And then lastly, we'll do the total calories. And there's also an inspirational quote we were asked to add here too. So there's the total calories. I should mention, I'm not asking for an average in this exercise. I might ask for an average on the actual exam, in which case, what would you have to do? You'd have to do maybe something like total calories divided by, what was that? Current food index is the one that has the number of foods in it, okay? That's an important variable for us. So yeah, hint, hint on the actual exam. Don't forget this. Okay, so that's really it. Hopefully this will prepare you well for the actual exam, and it'll also serve as a decent little code model. It's not going to be identical, obviously, but this will get you through, the basic structure and the flow of the program, hopefully.